Hi everyone, welcome to today's insightful session with Oladejo Adeyemi. We are going to be taking a deeper dive from where we left it at the last session. We had discussed that there were 4 major bills that became acts of the parliament, and those bills are going to be, the act as they are now, are going to be changing the landscape of our business and regulatory environment. So today we're going to be looking at in what ways are those acts going to be changing the landscape. And we are taking the very first one in no particular order, but we're going to be concentrating first on the Nigeria Tax Act. Now, I've got a lot of questions from viewers, asking, wanting to know specific provisions. And I've told them that all they need to do is just to follow us, because we are going to be taking our time around this subject matter, given how significant the impact that this particular act is going to be having on, given how impactful it's going to be. So, what do you need to know with respect to the Nigeria Tax Act? First, what you need to know, the starting point is the structure. What does the Act look like? You have over 200 sections in the Act. There are about 9 chapters. Each chapter had been deliberately segmented to speak on specific tax types. Now, these chapters individually also have different parts. Now, what does this segmentation, what does it mean for us at this time? It means increased level of simplicity, such that it will be very easy for even non-practitioners to understand what their obligations are when it comes to Nigerian taxes. So I'd mentioned many parts. I'd mentioned the chapters that you have. Then those chapters, like chapter 6, for instance, is designated to value-added tax, and chapter 8, talking about tax incentive. Chapter 9 talks about the general provisions. Now, these used to be individual tax laws, in the past, different acts of the parliament. However, the level of simplicity we now have has streamlined everything into one act, which is the Nigeria Tax Act. We are also, the schedules are also not left out. We have multiple schedules, like you have your first schedule being capital allowance, you have your second schedule focusing on free trade zone, and the likes of them. Now, what each of these chapters and sections then deal with specific types, specific business types, and have varying degree of impact depending on what you are looking for. On PAYE, for instance, previously we had graduated scale. We still have the graduated scale, but there is this misconception, going about that the PAYE rates have been increased. However, what has happened is the band for low-income earners, which used to be 300,000 before now, had been expanded. So if all you earn, for instance, is 800,000, your tax rate is going to be 0%. So you have no tax to pay on the personal income tax level if all you've earned is 800,000. So we still have the graduated system. However, it's been a bit expanded such that different levels of income now attract more like commensurate level of rates. So you have the first 800,000 going for 0%, as I've mentioned. The next 2.2 million going for 15%, will be taxed at 15%. The next 9 million will be taxed at 18%. The next 13 million will be taxed at 21%. The next 25 million would be taxed at 23%. And then income earners above 50 million would be taxed at 25%. compared to what we used to have before, there is more like an extension of the graduated scale to properly reflect the level of income and then the commensurate tax rate that should apply to those different level of income. All you need to do, like I said, to continue to get more of this insight is to keep following me on all of my social media platforms, and I can guarantee you that you will continue to have insightful session. See you next time. Bye.